And welcome to the Midday Show. It is Friday, and I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. Friday free for all. We have I even have a list here. I don't know if we're going to get to all of it. There's some bank stuff. I told you I watched the TikTok hearings. Hilarious if you didn't get to see them or not. March Madness stuff you watched last night. I have a really big country music argument going on in my life. I have a winners and losers thing. I think you have a list.
I have
you have a list as well. We're going to try to bounce around and get to as many of them as possible. Mark, how are you feeling today?
Ready.
I didn't even mention it. You have trivia for me.
I have trivia.
I didn't even mention it.
I want to announce I hate the University of Tennessee starting now, and March Madness is officially over, and it's baseball season.
You had Texas in your one thing, right?
I still have Texas. Yeah, I still I'm in this wonky. We had an auction, and you own teams, and I owned Tennessee, and I thought I had, I thought I got a lucky bracket because where they got through, and then they stunk. And they didn't play well in the first half, stunk in the second half, and that was kind of I still have life, but it's not looking good. It wasn't looking great before last night, and when Tennessee lost, it's now looking worse.
I'll get this out of the way because I know this is maybe the least important thing to you, but I think I have a twist for you that you'll be interested in. Congress people who end up going to these hearings. So the TikTok hearings are going on right now. Okay.
Yes.
And so they had the CEO of TikTok there to answer questions.
Yes.
And it was like a 4.5 hour, call it a drilling, call it whatever you want. For me, it was painful is what it was watching this.
Well, if you watched all 4.5 hours, no wonder it's painful.
Have you announced? Are we?
No.
Okay. So here's what I would say.
Well, it was in the paper.
Okay. So here's what I would say. If you were a congressman, okay, and let's say there was a hearing about something, these people show up to these hearings and it's almost like they're afraid to admit they don't know what they're talking about.
I know, that is shocking.
And then they sound awful. They sound like idiots. And here's the thing. I was already leaning towards kind of this feels more like a ghost chase than anything else. I don't know how awful TikTok really is now that the more I read into it and I see how it works,
right?
Who actually owns it and runs it and all this stuff. And then these congressmen and women come up and they ask these questions and it doesn't help their argument. Anybody who was on the fence yesterday did not walk away thinking we need to get rid of TikTok. So I just as a congressperson, would it kill you to just be okay with not knowing? Is it all right to walk into the room with some dignity and just kind of listen, I don't know how all of this works, so I'm hoping today I can understand it. Instead, they walk in they've got the biggest gun in the room and they're gonna I'm gonna show this person. You don't even know how Wi-Fi works. You don't even understand how social media apps work, and it's awful. It's really brutal.
I agree 100%, and I didn't even see it. But don't you think this happens in lots of places in society where the people at the top of the food chain, whether it's in a house, whether it's a family structure, whether it's in a business environment or whatever, that the boss thinks they're the smartest person in the room all the time,
sure,
as opposed to looking around and saying hey, you do this better than me, you know this. Now, if it's something the boss doesn't like, then it's easy for us to pass off things we don't like.
Sure.
But when it's something that we're kind of, I'm smart. I can handle. I've questioned lots of people. I'm a senator. I'm the smartest person in the room. No, you're not.
Yeah.
And they have repeatedly embarrassed themselves. I'm thinking back to the Roger Clemens steroid hearing, where they repeatedly embarrassed themselves by just doing what you say, acting like they know when they don't know.
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal yesterday.
But it's not just Congress. It happens. People with egos
in all aspects of society.
In all aspects of society, it is hard for some people to look at, because I say all the time, you're not. My generation is the dumbest generation of all, because our parents were smarter than us and now our kids are smarter than us because of technology, where technology showed up. And it's very easy for me to look at my kid and say, how do I do this? Or how do you find this? Or And there's just lots of aspects. I've never understood why people have trouble asking other, especially if they're younger, or maybe they're not advanced in a degree or whatever the case may be. But like, what do you think? Because your opinion is just as smart as mine.
My thing is, I don't have an issue with them going in with like an agenda. Like if you're a congressman or woman and you walk in there and you're trying to figure something out, or I understand the agenda side of it. The part that I don't understand is like the cynical of like the gotcha cynicalism of like that part never works out for any congressman or woman in any of these hearings. It never works out ever. It just doesn't. Stacy says it's comic relief. Here, we can lean into this a little bit. Cindy, this website leans very left. Don't listen to it. Interesting.
Who, our website?
Well, I'm just our website, our show, or whatever. She thinks that it leans very left. What would you say?
Huh. I
feel like this show, the more I go back and watch our show, I find that there are a lot of shows where we tend to lean more right than left. Some of that's my own fault because I tend to lean more right than left. But then we do have segments where, depending on what we talk about, there are days where we agree with the left. Like, it just depends on the subject.
I was going to say, I think we're more middle because I think we're willing to both equally compliment both sides and ridicule both sides. So because you're not siding with the congressman over TikTok, that makes you left on this issue? Is that what they're saying?
Oh, well, I think
She's
could.
saying.
This is actually, most are saying this is one of the most bipartisan issues that there is right now. Like, a lot of Democrats want to ban TikTok. A lot of Republicans want to ban TikTok. And a lot of that is a big push because of who owns the media companies. Like Murdoch is a big.
So maybe you're a libertarian.
It's possible.
That you're supporting TikTok.
It's possible. Like, one of the things that has come out is Murdoch, who runs Fox News, also is a huge stakeholder in Meta, Facebook, essentially. Okay. And TikTok's kicking their ass. Like, a lot of advertising money in the last 2 years has gone from Fox, from Meta, and gone into TikTok. And it's the same with the left. There's a ton of people who own left side media, same way. They're getting their asses kicked by TikTok. So this is actually one of the few bipartisan things, and it has nothing to actually do with right values and left values.
It has to do with their money.
Has everything to do with the fact that a non-American company is dragging advertising dollars out of these huge majority stakeholders who run these media companies. So
that's interesting.
So to me, this isn't even a right or left issue necessarily.
And I will be honest, I am a TikTok. I have the TikTok app, and the only time I ever open it is when someone sends me a TikTok and they're like, watch this.
Yeah.
So that is.
If you get a chance, find like a 10-minute clip, like the hits of the TikTok hearings yesterday. Will you do that for me? Because you will laugh at moments.
I'm sure. I'm sure I will.
Glad they took the time out of their day to check out the show. They're just adding to the Emmy nominations that are coming
soon to be. Soon to be.
Brad, it's always about the money. Doesn't it feel that way? It feels that way more.
Follow the money.
It is.
Isn't that what he said in
yes.
Wasn't that the Deep Throat? What was the movie?
Deep Throat. I believe you. Don't hurt yourself.
All the President's Men?
Possibly. That looked like it hurt your head.
What was it? It was Dustin Hoffman and what's his name played the reporters.
I'm not sure.
I think it's called All the President's Men.
I've never seen All the President's Men. So
I saw it. And anyway. All right, so we're going to change up real quick. I'm going to give you a trivia question.
I'm ready.
This is my first of a couple.
I'm ready.
There has been one R-rated movie in history that has made $1 billion.
$1 billion?
Worldwide. One.
I mean, I think I know only because of what you brought up earlier today. Can I ruin it, or should I?
Oh no, because you're not. I haven't brought.
Oh, I was going to guess John Wick because
no,
you had mentioned.
No.
So one rated R movie that made $1 billion.
John Wick is back tonight, by the way.
It is. Sorry, I stepped on your spotlight there. So say that one more time. $1
billion.
$1 billion R-rated movie.
Because as we all, the Avatars, the Titanic, the Star Wars,
but there never are.
There never are.
R-rated movie that made the billions throwing me off because I had a couple like in my gut, a couple 4 movies, and then what's one with Anthony Hopkins where he wears the mask?
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, I see, but there's no way that made $1 billion.
It's too old.
But I think that was R-rated, was it not?
It was R.
Okay, so that was where my head went to. I don't think I know.
I'll give it. Well, here's 2 and 3.
Okay.
Are Deadpool.
Okay.
And Deadpool 2.
So Deadpool 3. I don't know. Tell me.
Joker.
It was R. It made $1 billion. I did not know Joker made $1 billion. Did you love it?
No.
Did you see it?
I did.
Okay.
I thought the performances were super.
I'm really happy I saw it one time. I will never watch it
It's
again.
probably not one I'll ever go out of my. The reason I started into this was back in the day, and The Matrix was on the list somewhere. Like I pulled the top 10 somewhere.
Okay.
Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
Was either 1 or 2, like back in its time. Now, because of the Deadpool, since things have passed it.
Okay.
But I never realized. I mean, I never thought it was. I mean, I guess it makes sense that it was R because it's so violent. But that it was at a time either the highest grossing or the top 2 grossing R-rated.
I went and saw it in theaters, and I was 16, I think. And I remember going to see it because at the time it was such a big deal.
Such a buzz.
Yeah. So did you go and see it in the theater when it came out?
No, and I'll tell you what, I tried to watch it on DVD and couldn't do it.
Okay.
Number one, I had to read a lot, and I wasn't into it. And it's just the epic violence. I say epic violence, like it's tough. I'm not as tough as some people are.
I got it. Was that my only trivia question?
No, I had another one that I thought it was cool when I pulled it up, and it's just not as neat.
Okay. You want to ask me anyway?
Okay. I mean, yes. I saw this on one of the things. The top 5 states people are moving out of, and the top 5 states people are moving into.
Do you have them listed?
I have them listed.
California.
Yes.
Is definitely on there. Is that number 1?
Number 1.
New York.
Number 2.
Now it gets a little tricky. States that people are moving out of. I'm going to guess Pennsylvania.
No.
They're
not
top
top
5. Okay. What are the other 3? Because New York and California, I knew for a fact are the big ones. Moving into, is Texas number 1?
2.
Florida's number 2?
Florida's 1.
So those would have been my first 2 guesses. Do you know what those states have in common?
It's warm.
I'll give you that. They are warm. California's warm though. Is California not warm?
Sure.
You have 2 of the bluest states. I don't even want to call it blue. I would argue you have 2 of the wokest states because I don't think it's fair to Democrats to say they're leaving because the state is blue. You have 2 of the wokest states going to 2 of the hard right.
Well, Florida wasn't hard right.
It is now.
But it's going I think because of the people that want it that are going to.
Yeah.
But
you say going, I would argue it's there. Like
yes.
we are.
It is a red state.
Yes.
There's no doubt
people want a couple more elections to like statistically show it, but like it's
not going blue next election.
Happens.
I'm agreeing. So here are the 3. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. California, New York, Illinois.
Yeah.
So the 3 biggest cities, people are leaving cities because they can work from anywhere. So why would they work in a city? Yeah. New Jersey, which is the most densely populated.
We're talking
state,
about leaving, right?
Leaving.
Okay.
And Massachusetts, which is Boston, and it's cold. And you
know what those states also have in common? Taxes. I believe that
probably.
I believe businesses and like owners are getting crushed in taxes.
Probably.
In those states.
So the ones they're going to, Florida, Texas.
Do you know what those states have in common?
Which ones?
They don't get crushed by taxes.
Correct.
Okay.
North and South Carolina.
Okay.
And Tennessee.
Interesting. I think I told you about the Nashville thing.
Yes.
Nashville right now is the fastest growing city in the United States.
So, but when you think of it, people are leaving cities. They're leaving other than California. They're leaving north. They're going places warmer. A lot of people from here go to Florida, but if you want to go south and Florida's too hot, which it is half the year, they go to the Carolinas.
Yeah.
So that makes perfect sense because all the population of that, so much of the population of this country is still in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And then Nashville. So I thought it was. I think there is some political tie to it. Without a doubt, but I think more of it has to do with being able to work remotely. And they're like, because I have a buddy whose daughter was living in Arizona, and something job offer. They talked to the boss, or her husband or whoever talked to his boss, and he's like, no, you got to come to a meeting once a month, but I don't care where you live because you work out of your living room anyway. So they're moving to the Carolinas. Yeah.
when I was because I've been to Carolina the last couple of years, and every time I go through, like if you go through like the Cary Carolinas and like places like that, everything's new. Like everything.
Yes.
Nothing is like old and worn down. Don't get me wrong. Like I hate to say it this way. There are slums in North Carolina. Like,
Are you
I'm not
implying
implying
I'm old and worn down?
No, not at all.
I
I'm
think
saying
that's
like
where you're going.
if you drive through even some of the nicest places in Pennsylvania, there is an oldness.
No, without a doubt.
There's an aged feeling to everything. You go through some of the places in North Carolina, not all of them, but a lot of places in North Carolina, everything is like brand spanking new.
I'm with you.
It's really, really nice.
I'm with you.
Leaving for that good country music. Here's because we're
what's your
today.
country music thing?
So here's
we'll segue.
So here's like the quick 30-second rundown. Morgan Wallen, who I don't know if you know or not, he put out a new album. And then today, Luke Combs also put out a new album, which arguably right now in today's country music, Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs are probably like the two best.
Is Morgan Wallen 98 Braves?
He is 98 Braves.
Great song.
Yes. So essentially, this is what's happening. Country music is unique. I love country music. It's unique because it's very definable to most people, and people are very protective over what country music is. Compared to other genres. Okay. There is an ongoing kind of debate within the country community that Morgan Wallen is not like country. Like he's not pure country. It's more pop country. It has more of like a pop feel than like your twangy down home country thing. So my argument, and I actually hope you disagree with me just so we can have some pushback. But I don't know if you're going to after what we talked about before the show. So my argument about the Morgan Wallen thing and about country music listeners is pop is way more undefinable than country is. Pop is literally popular music. There was a point in time where rock music was pop music. Like it was the pop.
Whatever's popular.
There was a time where Motown was pop music. Like it was the most popular. I would argue there was a point like 2000s that where like rap and hip hop and R&B was pop music. Like it was a thing. So to me, pop isn't like this definable thing of like your country or not. Pop is more an undefinable of like, do enough people listen to you to decide that you are the sound of the moment? Are you the sound of the moment?
I agree with that.
People. Okay. So
was that what I was supposed to disagree with?
Tell
me when I'm supposed to.
Not really. So the thing with pop music today and with Morgan Wallen stuff, I think a lot of country musicians now, because of streaming, because of a younger crowd, I think country music is slowly like steeping its way more and more into pop music than ever before. My argument is that it has nothing to do with the music as much as it has with the acceptance of everyone around going, hey, this is a sound we like, and thus we are going to put it on more popular stations. And country people are like, no. It sounds more like pop. It's not as country. And I think I disagree. I think it sounds just as country as anything else that's not as popular. It's just the Morgan Wallens of the world have become so popular that now it's tweaking it. Well, so there you go. So that's my country music. Pop music.
All right, you want my take?
Yeah, of course. That's why we're here.
No, you don't mean that, but it would be rude if you said no. Yeah. So with every genre, because I'm a classic rock guy, so we'll take classic rock.
Okay.
People, we for most of us, we love what we grew up with, and there'll be nothing like the AC/DCs and the Van Halens and the Bon Jovis and the Motley Crues and all those. And so when we hear something new or something different, a lot of us don't like it because it's different, and we like this. But then if we hear a band that sounds like a straight ripoff of one of these old bands, like there was a band back in the 80s, 90s called Kingdom Come, and people called it Kingdom Clone because they sounded just like Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
And so, but if you can't have it both ways. Like they can't sound just like your old favorites,
right,
because then you would just listen to your old favorites. But when they sound different, to set themselves apart, you don't like them because they sound different. And that is the aspect I can imagine with these old country fans who are traditional, like this is what country music is supposed to sound like. Well, then they can't make anything new. Right. Did you ever, I'll ask you this because you've seen the movie, La La Land.
Yeah.
Because we are the only two, heterosexual males who love La La Land.
I love La La Land.
And one of the great lines in the movie is when Gosling was talking to who was the famous black guy that was the band director? Was it Usher? No, it wasn't Usher. Was it John Legend?
John Legend.
John Legend was in the movie. And when he was talking about, because John Legend's jazz band was different.
Right.
It was more poppy.
Correct.
And it was more, and Ryan Gosling's character was upset because he was a traditional jazz fan.
Right.
And John Legend said, but these guys at the time were groundbreaking. Now, 50 years later, 70 years later, 100 years later, they're not groundbreaking, they're traditional. But they broke new ground. We're breaking new ground.
Right.
And it is that ebb and flow of, are we being disrespectful to? It goes into another category that we have on here about movies. Like, are we trying to make new movies, or are we trying to replay the old movies?
Mm-hmm.
And what works and what doesn't work. So it's tough for the artist.
Right. What's interesting, this is like one of my little arguments, because we talked about it a lot this morning with the producers of the show. And I said, my biggest thing though is like, if it wasn't good, it wouldn't be pop. Like,
agreed.
Like most pop artists are only ever called pop artists when they're successful. Like,
you can't can't be an art house pop artist.
But listen, there's lots of art house like country musicians. There's lots of SoundCloud rappers, right? So like the only way to become like a pop artist is to become so successful that a part of your genre is kind of like, you're not really our genre anymore. And it's like, sorry, more people want to listen to me now. Like and to me that says more about how good you're doing than necessarily like you have changed the sound of your music.
I agree with you.
When Morgan Wallen first started off, no one said Morgan Wallen wasn't country. And now all of a sudden, if you listen to like some of his first singles, same groove, same type of country music. The only difference though is he wasn't as popular then. And now he's super popular. He has a couple of songs on like the Today Top Hits and the pop charts and stuff. And so everyone's like, well, he's country. It's pop country now. And I'm like, I don't know. It sounds the same to me. Like, it doesn't sound any different from what he's been doing.
What the only Morgan Wallen song I think I know is 98 Braves.
Yes.
Because you played it for me. And it could not sound more country to me. Is that one of the ones that's getting heat?
I don't think so. He has one called One Thing at a Time. And listen, it like, when I listen to it, there are totally like some, like the whole like Harry Styles synth stuff. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, certainly it's bleeding into it. And look, he put 36 songs on his new album. 36. So there's a little
There's
bit.
Got to be a little bit of variation.
There's some diehard country songs on there. There's some like trap country, as they would call it. Like, he's all over the board. But it's funny to me because I just can't wrap my head around the idea that Morgan Wallen woke up one day and was like, I'm going to make some pop country. I don't think Morgan Wallen thinks that way. Like, I think Morgan Wallen woke up and was like, I'm going to make some country music. And it just got to a point where like the 13-year-old girl, after she plays Ariana Grande, is playing a song from Morgan Wallen. And so now you're a pop artist. It almost doesn't matter.
I get it. And when you have too much success, as we've talked about, Tom Cruise is like the last movie star. And we've talked about that. And he won't win an Academy Award. He's never won an Academy Award. Has he even ever been nominated?
Yeah.
And because there's this aspect of he just makes movies to make money. He's too successful.
Right. The last argument.
What did he say about Ariana Grande?
She said, that was actually for Ariana Grande has songs that I think suck. So basically he's saying you don't have to be a pop artist. You don't have to be a successful pop artist. You can be a bad pop artist. Ariana Grande,
her on the TV show, who was she? Was she Kat?
I don't know. You had daughters, so like
she was so talented.
I think you've told me
on that show, playing the ditzy blonde who wasn't blonde, but she was brilliant.
Yeah. So the last thing that I want to make about the whole country argument, and I'm curious of your take on this as like a historian of music. There is, if you go through like the annals of music, right, like the history of it, I think most genres had a point where they kind of like kicked everybody else down and they became the chart. Like they became pop. And I already used rock as an example. Right. Motown, for example. I think there was a point where it hit disco at one point. I think country has never truly been able to do that. There's never been a stretch of time, like 3 to 5 years, where the true pop, today's top hits charts, billboards,
Early
just were-
90s with Garth.
but that was Garth. That wasn't country.
No, I would think, that's when Achy Breaky Heart was there. That
know.
was when bands like Black Hawk and
But that wasn't like a hold. Like that wasn't like a chokehold on the charts.
no, because I guess that maybe that's because when grunge was showing up and that the
You still had MTV,
the country, the classic rock people
Mhm.
like me related way more to Garth
sure.
than we did to grunge.
So one of my arguments this morning was like, I think country fans more than any other genre would have a harder time accepting accepting pop, like accepting country as pop, or they would have a harder time understanding what pop is because their genre has never been at the forefront of popular music. Now, in their world, there's nothing bigger, and I understand that.
No, I get
I
it.
get that. But in the world of music, country has never really and some of it's not their fault. Like I told you before about the story about the Billboard charts and how it basically like held country music back. And
Right.
so some of it's not even country music's fault. So I don't know. So I do think there's a little bit of a gap there. And I think that also helps explain why country music fans are like so protective, like so like, no, like that is not country. Because I don't think other genres do that as much.
Well, one of the things I heard, and I don't know if this relates at all, but when they were talking about